Hey Al, good evening. How are you doing?
Good evening, Count. I'm fine. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. So another LSG RCB game. The last time they played, it was a run fest.
Yeah, that's something that I don't think we can expect today, considering its stadium at Lucknow. It's been bizarre actually. They've used both black soil and red soil decks, and it started with red soil, and they've alternated between red and black. So we are again expecting red today, even though it's better for batting. But I don't think we could. It's the scores are going to be between 160 and 170.
Yeah, but the black soil decks are yielding just 125 to 135 runs.
Yeah.
So a red soil deck would be a better deck for RCB, right? So given
Mm,
the batting power that they have on the top order,
mm,
they would definitely want
mm.
to bat on a better deck.
Yeah.
But the boundaries are longer. It's not Bangalore. It's a much bigger
Mm.
ground.
Yeah, they only RCB basically. If you look at it, they only have three batters: Faf, Kohli, and Maxwell. The rest of them either are not good or not informed. DK is someone that they had predicted this. The time on DK is running out, and RCB should have prepared better for it to face out the transition period, but they didn't. They are paying for it right now. So they, with the big boundaries, they'd ideally want a good batting deck to beat LG.
Yeah. So let me just share my screen. Talk about yesterday's game, so thousandth IPL match, and Jaiswal comes up with a century, and they facilitated Sachin Tendulkar for the thousandth game. But I couldn't but wonder. It looked like one of those scorecards from the '90s where Sachin scores a century, where everybody else around him fails. So that happened to be the scorecard of Rajasthan Royals yesterday.
I watched the match live. I didn't know it looked this bad. No, only now I'm looking at it. It is like only one player has crossed the 20-run mark.
Yeah, and in terms of the highest, second highest score, so he got into the top four. I think there was KL Rahul game. There was this Gale game where he scored 175. So Jaiswal's
Mm.
124 is among that list. Where the
Yeah,
top scorer and the gap between the top scorer and the second top scorer is almost 100 odd runs.
yeah. It's quite a way to celebrate the thousand came from JS12 there.
Yeah, and then I was watching the game, and the Rohit Sharma prediction came out to sell him
Mm.
for 35, but he got out right away.
Yeah.
And the way the game was going, I was not really having hope because they never chased more than 200 runs at
Mm.
Wankhede before. I think this is the first time they had such a successful second innings chase. I mean, a chase after such a high score has been posted. But
Mm.
it really got me interested to watch the game after I saw these predictions come through. So just
Mm.
talk to us about this thought process.
I think this is something we had predicted in our article as well, that if Bolt does what he's capable of, Bolt and Sandeep does what he's capable of, then Sky and Tilak Verma will get a lot of game time in the middle. And the reason that they will score is Sky. It's basically there are no real weaknesses for him, especially at Wankade. He's always going to score. So we had a player performance points prediction as well. So we were waiting for that to cross. Once that crossed, that went over 25.5 points. We then gave out a second prediction on him, which was this one, Sky over 446.5 runs. And the other thing, Tilak Verma, the one thing that has really troubled Tilak Verma is the hard length at pace. And when you have big boundaries, it's easier to get him out. Wankhede is a venue that doesn't have a big boundary. All of those are basically small boundaries, and the opposition on that day didn't have any express pace bowler. The only one that could hit it over 140 was Kuldeep Sen, and he was in bad form as well. So as long as Tilak Verma comes out and he has 5 to 6 overs minimum, he'll be facing 15 balls, which will be enough for him to cross 21.5 runs. So that was the basis for us giving out this one.
Yeah, and I think there was also a bit of a due factor that came in because I saw Sandeep Sharma wanting to, keep wiping the ball, and even Holder in the last, over he bowled. There seemed to have been a problem with the ability to grip the ball properly.
Yeah, it was a bizarre decision from Sanju Samson to bat first. I mean, every time this happens, when there's a trend that goes on of a team that bats first and keeps winning, there's a pattern that develops of 5 to 7 teams winning straight matches. Then the teams that follow try to follow that trend. They start to think that they could bat first and win games, and it backfires. That's exactly what happens as well. I think there is uh, I think chasing is still the best way to play T20 because you know what's ahead of them. That was the problem for that was rather the advantage for Mumbai Indians yesterday. Yesterday they exactly knew what they needed to chase it down, and that's how they constructed the innings, beat Cameron Green or Surya Kumar Yadav. The way they played, they knew what was what had to be done, and the conditions also get worse as the innings progress with the dew. Mumbai, we all know that in the second innings, the dew will always be a problem.
Yeah, and talking about chasing, I think the chasing happens better, especially when they're chasing a high score, when the
Mm,
middle order performs, right? Again, this is the
mm,
last
mm,
game
mm,
between
mm.
RCB and LSG.
True.
Stoinis and Puran, they came out blazing, right? Like exactly like how Tilak Verma and Sky
Mm,
Green, they all batted
yeah.
yesterday. So it's very
Mm,
important the middle order plays well. So,
yeah.
what are the chances that given the red soil and they're playing in Lucknow, of
Mm,
this
mm.
middle order coming good, especially against somebody like a Vaninda Hasaranga who would bowl better in conditions away from Bangalore, I would imagine.
I think that there is a bit of uncertainty over Marcus Stoinis playing today. He injured his finger or something in the last game, so that will have an impact. But in general, Lucknow has completely changed their batting order. Deepak Huda is batting lower down now, and Ayush Badani is batting in the top four. Kunal Pandya, they keep moving him up and down. And basically, from what KL said, they would want to ensure that there is always a left-handed and right-handed option at the crease. So, in terms of batting depth, they do have some decent depth in when you take into consideration that Puran is batting at 5 or 6 and he's an excellent player of spin bowling. So one into Asranga, take on one into Asranga. I think Puran has to deliver today. He's one of the biggest bets, and KL Rahul he's been on and off throughout the entire tournament. He's another good player who will be able to take on one into Asranga if he wants to play it that way.
Yeah, so this is their changed batting order which they played in the last game. Looks like the number three slots fits Ayush Badoni better than batting, deep in the lower order.
Yeah, I think they basically wanted someone who can contribute at number 3 and 4 because both Huda has gotten into a period where he's not scoring any runs. He's out of form. He looks out of form. He's getting out to bowlers he usually does well against. And then there is Kunal Pandya who has always struggled, whether irrespective of where he bats at the top or at the bottom. So they basically decided that enough is enough and we're going to move up Ayush Badoni who had shown signs of promise down the order up and see what happens, and it's working out for them.
Yeah, and the second game, Punjab, chasing 257 runs, they got to 201, losing cost, but the 201 runs was enough yesterday against Chennai.
Yeah, Punjab have been in the last 4 matches. I even tweeted it out saying they made their opposition work really hard to win games. I mean, look at it. They've lost a fair few of their players. Like Liam Livingstone is just coming back. Johnny Baxter, what a big loss. He could have been a easy 500 runs, 500 run performance this season. He could have easily given out that, but they've lost him. They do not have Banuka Rajapaksha. They're having Atharva Taide at Sikar, the one was missing. So even with all of these losses, they've been performing really well this season, and CSK were at the receiving end of that. And there was a period between 11th and 15th over. I think they played it very smartly. Livingstone and Sam Curran, they didn't try to take a lot of risk against Mahesh Tikshna. If they had done that, he would have got a couple of wickets and the game would have been wrecked. They were defensive. They tried to play him out, and then they took on the weakest link, which is the pace bowling unit.
And Prabhsimran's innings, really set them up nicely,
Yeah.
because he plays really gorgeous shots and looks good
Yeah.
when he keeps
He,
going.
yeah, he's been really frustrating from a fantasy point of view for us because whenever we pick him, he doesn't perform. Whenever we don't pick him, he performs even against us. For example, how would you to perform against CSK at CSK, batting second at that venue says about the quality of the player. But we have picked him in easier situations where he has failed, so that has been frustrating from fantasy point of view. But what a talent! I think he's one of the biggest revelations of this IPL.
Also, Sam Curran seems to have taken a bigger responsibility with the bat ever since he started captaining in Dhawan's absence.
Yeah, he was playing lower down the order, and somewhere in between there was a switch happened. They were trying Jitesh Sharma at number 4, but that I'm not sure why they went away. He showed a lot of promise against spin in that role, but they went away from it. He was pushed lower down the order with Sam Curran now regularly coming up in the top six, even in situations that you would normally expect Jitesh Sharma to come. It's not him who is coming out. It's only Sam Curran who is coming out at the if it's a wicket falls around the 12th or 13th over.
Yeah, English bowlers seem to have what has been ordered by the doctor for Dhoni to smoke two sixes at Chepak every time he comes up against them. It was good
I
to
mean,
watch
I,
him
I
do
I
that.
think he has a strike rate of over 200 this season. It's tremendous. I mean, you think he's going to play as a specialist keeper and a specialist captain, and he comes out and does this and says about the quality of the player that we're speaking about.
Yeah, so let's jump into today's game. So we already talked about the red soil versus black soil, and this is what happens. Going to the venue sheet from the match sheet that's been sent out. So whenever there is a red soil, as you can see, the average both first innings and the second innings score goes up. And the black soil, it immediately plummets to the 120s to 130s.
That's a neat little addition to a venue sheet. Thanks to our team that came up with this idea. So the thing is that yeah, the difference shows. I didn't even in the 159 161 game there could have been like an extra 10 to 15 runs scored. 10 to 15 runs scored in both innings. That was how the good the deck was. But if you look at the other two games, even scoring 140 seemed like a challenge. So that's what we are looking forward to seeing what deck they dish out today. If you see the pattern, it's red, black, red, black. So if they follow that, it should be again red today. So RCB would be hoping for the same as well.
And they've had good 8 days between the last game and this game. And if they do put out the red soil, it would be, I don't think they've had any rains in Lucknow. They would have used a firm roller, and we would expect at least the first power play of the game, the ball to really carry on to the bat.
Yeah, we shouldn't be surprised even if it does if it does bid for the new ballers as well, because we've been hearing that it's been raining from the morning at Lucknow, even though it's clearing up right now, and we should have a full 20 overs game. So there could be some moisture on the deck, which could help new ball seamers like Siraj or the other one at Lucknow. Even Avesh Khan could find some help up front.
Yeah, I wasn't aware it's raining in Lucknow as well. I heard that it rained in Chennai a bit today morning, but I haven't heard about Lucknow. So that would really really advantage Siraj the way he's been bowling. Even if he
Uh,
gets a little bit of assistance off the deck, and if RCB were to bowl first, it's problem for KL Rahul.
Yeah, RCB are also one of the few teams who have managed to stop Kyle Mayers this season. Siraj dismissed him for a duck in the last game, so I think they'll be really looking forward to bowling at him today.
Yeah. So on that discussion, just bringing up the key matchups. The match report does talk about how Glenn Maxwell can do well given the lot of left-handers in the LSG's batting order.
Yeah, even one of the previous matches, I was surprised that Glenn Maxwell wasn't used to with the ball, but that may be because of the small size boundaries at Chinnaswamy. At Lucknow, we have bigger protection, so he'll definitely come into play with the ball.
And also there is this alert for Naveen ul Haq, given the how brittle the lower order is of RCB. So he could
Yes,
come into play and
yeah.
boosting his fantasy potential.
Whenever you find a setup that has a brittle lower middle order, the death bowler is in for a good day. So Naveen Ulak will be looking forward to bowling at this RCB batting unit.
Vishnu has been excellent, but this game you're given an alert for Pandya against Maxwell, given there is a slow nature to the deck and bigger boundaries. Maxwell might, you reckon will try to take on a Pandya, and the chances that he will hold out.
Yeah, that's something that Maxwell has historically struggled against for left arm off spin, irrespective of where he plays. He could play it on a flat deck, he could play it in Australia, he could play it in India, he could play it anywhere in the world. Left arm off spin is something that has always troubled him. People usually think it's the leg spin, but he does well against leg spin, unless it's a very traditional leg spin, someone like Amit Mishra, but someone like against Rashid Khan or against someone like Ravi Bishnoi, he has an excellent record. But it's actually, funnily enough, he struggles against Kunal Pandya.
That's interesting. So quickly looking at the fantasy home, so we already put out 7 players, and toss is very crucial today to pick the balance four. So you think Virat Kohli and Faf du Plessis will continue to reap benefits from their rich farm?
I think they've looked really good, and the deck really needs to be really bad for them to fail today because in the power play, irrespective of who balls, they have a good record against low left arm off spin as well. So Kunal Pandya is likely the option that KL Rahul will turn towards in the power play. So unless it's a black soil deck, they should fancy themselves taking him down.
And I really see the differential for Siraj and Naveen Ullah when it comes to captain vice captain is just 7 and 1%. And
Yeah,
given there
yeah.
will be rains, early up, irrespective of whether RCB or LSG bowls, both of them could really come into play and pick a couple of crucial wickets up front.
Yeah. Now, considering the way they bowl, Siraj is someone who gets a lot of LBWs and bowls, and Naveen Ulak is someone who always targets stumps with his Yorkers and slower balls. So you'll also get an extra 8 points for getting batter dismissed by LBW and bowled. So even if they take a couple of wickets, it could be 66 points for you.
And Siraj is the one who has bowled the maximum number of dot balls in a power play, so he's been exceptionally good this IPL.
Siraj Ashwin is finally starting to bowl to his potential that we have always known that he could do, and it's coming up this season.
Yeah, that pretty much brings us to the end of the match previews. So talk to us. I know you have a toss you need to go to. We just have a couple of more minutes, but I would love to hear more about the latest chat covers of .ai. So the fantasy tools that's been very eagerly anticipated. The basic version of that has gone live. So talk to us a
Yeah.
little bit more about that.
It's something that whenever I played a league, there was a point because initially, they give out the ownership percentages, so you know what needs to happen for you to get money gain profit. But after a point, say in the second innings, in the fifth over or sixth over of the second innings, random things start happening, and you not know what exactly needs to happen for you to get into the top 10 because various people have captained different players. This is something that ownership doc doesn't cover. So, what as a first step of what we are trying to do, we have devised a system which shows yeah, which also includes captaincy and vice captaincy factors into the ownership percentage. So, if a player is marked, that's basically an called EO. If a player has a higher EO and you do not have him, then that's trouble for you. If a player has a lower EO and you do not have him, even if the player performs, it doesn't matter much. But if a player has a lower EO and you have him, and the player also performs well, for example, take Tim David, for example. Tim David had an EO of zero point 0.1 or zero point 0.2 yesterday. I was in number 20 or 25 in 25 member leagues, and he came out and gave 74 points in 3 overs. I went from 20 to number 2. So that's the impact of having players who have a lower EO, and this is the first step of what we have discovered with our fantasy tool. In the going ahead, there are more exciting features that are likely to come in, and we'll be having it in the mid May, I guess, where you could potentially go ahead and type out the points that you think a player will score, and then our tool will show you where you'll end up. So imagine that's the kind of thing that I wanted while I was following my fantasy leagues, which is why we created this.
So it's more of a simulation tool that you upload a team, and with the
Yeah.
EOS that is calculated, it will give you an estimated number of points this team would score,
Yeah.
and accordingly, seeing that result, you can optimize the members you want to have in your team.
Yeah, so that's something that makes your league watching experience better. I mean, game watching experience better if you're a fantasy player, and if you want to know where you'll end up in your one of your high stakes league, it makes it easier for you. So that's what we are looking at. It won't necessarily help you to change your team because it's something that we are only be getting after the game starts. So that's something that will not help us in terms of constructing our team, but it will make your game watching experience much better if you're a fantasy player.
Just the last question, right? I been following the premium subscription has been doing really well. We talked about Jaiswal buy, Rohit Sharma sell, and also we talked about the in-play predictions on Tilak Verma and Sky. And you will talk about the subscription for the premium could be opened again in May. So is there any date on that for our viewers to know?
The date is fixed. Yeah, it's May 15. Phase 3 of premium subscriptions will be open from May 15 because we wanted to freeze it for the moment because we want to get the product up to where we want it to be instead of getting more and more people in and wasting our time on it. We wanted to give the best experience for our existing users, which is why we have freezed the premium subscription. We're getting the product quality. We are aggressively recruiting people to get the product quality to up to where we want it to be. So once that's done, we'll again open up premium subscriptions.
Yeah, so that's an exciting thing because there are a lot seems to be happening on the premium subscription. Like you said, they come for fantasy, but they stay for content. Like that's what happened to me yesterday because I had a premium subscription. It
Mm,
actually acted as an alert because I was not following the game, and when I
mm,
saw those alerts, is when I said, okay, something interesting is happening in the game, and then I
yeah,
tuned in, and it was a phenomenal game. So it definitely
yeah.
enhances the fan experience, immensely. So thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it. I know you need to go. You have a
No,
crucial toss and pitch report to follow to decide the balance members in the fantasy team. So really appreciate you spending time with us today, and hopefully we will again catch up tomorrow.
no problem at all. Yeah. Thank you.
All right, Al. Thanks so much. You take care then. Bye.
Bye.